Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Hammer Podcast. Today is November 10th, 2020, and I am speaking with Lucas. Lucas went to the Agape Boys Ranch, or is it the boarding school?
Agape's boarding school. Yes, sir.
Boarding school, okay. And he'll tell you when the year was. And I also have the infamous James Griffey. How you doing, James? He's not just famous. He's infamous.
There you go.
So I'm going to go ahead and just let Lucas start. The floor is yours, Lucas. You go right ahead, man.
Alrighty. So, what led up to me going to Agape, basically wasn't nothing big. Honestly, it was just me being a teenager. You know, we go to parties, we party a lot. I used to. My parents did not allow me to have a phone, because they thought that I would do some stupid stuff with it. So I was always getting a phone from a friend, sneaking out, lying to them, stole some money from them. So I did some stupid stuff. Obviously, it wasn't like I was a perfect kid and just got sent to a boarding school for no reason.
Right.
I went there. My first day there was December 30th, 2017. I was there for about 2.5 years. I was 15 when I got there. The first day did not make a good impression on me at all. I walked in there. They stripped me down all my clothes. They were manhandling me when I got in there because I was upset about everything. Took away my vape, everything, like everything I knew, my phone, everything. Threw away all my clothes. My parents bought me a whole bunch of clothes right before I got there. A lot of nice, expensive stuff. They threw it away, never to be seen again. And then they told me that they were gonna shave my head, and I was like, nah, that's not like a good idea. Like, no, like that's just like a part of me. Like for me, like my hair is a part of me. And so then they brought down Julio, and he was screaming in my face, yelling at me, pushing me up against the wall, throwing me around. Eventually, like, he sat me down on the chair, and he had two guys hold my hands while they were shaving my head. And that was all in the first hour, within the first hour of me being there.
Right. James, you didn't have to have your head shaved, did you?
You know what? I don't remember that, to be honest with you. I might have already had my hair trimmed, so yeah. I don't remember that part, to be honest with you. Then again, we're talking like 1998, so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's crazy. So that was your first hour?
First hour there. Within the first hour. And then they took me up to the dining hall, and I had no socks on, no shoes on, because they would not allow me to wear any socks or shoes. They finally got me a pair of slides, but like the floor there was so dirty, so it was just gross. I walked into the dining hall. And immediately, within the first 20 minutes of me being up there was like 3 fights. 3 big fights, big fights.
Because of you or just with those students? Oh, really?
No, just students talking. And the staff just kind of sat there and watched. And then when they realized who it was, or if it was a kid that they didn't like, they would go after that kid. No matter what happened, no matter if the other kid engaged it or anything like that, they would just automatically go for the other kid. Within the first 24 hours of me being there, I got hit in the face like 8 times. Literally like 8 times. For me, I know one kid, he came up to me and told me he wanted my shoes out of my locker. And I told him, no, man, I'm not going to give you my shoes. Like, those are my shoes. I'm not going to do anything like that. And, like, he was pressing me, getting all mad at me. And I just told him to shut up and just leave me alone and go sit down. And then he turned around and walked away and hit me in the back of the head like 3 times. And the staff members saw it and they didn't do anything about it. And so I was like, all right, man, like, whatever. It really don't matter. Like, if that's how it's gonna be, like, that's how it's gonna be. Like, I know how to get out of the situation. I'll just deal with it on my own. We were walking down in the shower bay one night, my first week, and this kid named Jeremy. He was a pretty big kid. He said something stupid about he thought it was like a kid's girlfriend that he had a picture of, but it was his sister. He's like, oh man, yeah, like, man, I tapped that. In the hallway as they're walking downstairs. like 3 kids jumped him, and the staff members are in the hallway, and while this is going on, they're not doing anything about it. They're just letting it happen and happen and happen. And then finally, a student named Oscar, he finally like broke it up. He finally like went over there and like and got them off the kid. And the kid was pretty beaten up, pretty bad. Didn't take him to the hospital, nothing. Didn't give him any medicine, nothing like that. They just told him he'll be fine. Just go to sleep and he'll be fine. Walked downstairs. Immediately, I was in the orange shirt bay, so I was brand new, and so I had to stand at attention for like an hour and a half before I could shower. When I got in the showers, it was 5 minutes of ice cold water. Didn't like. Eventually, they got the hot water turned back on, but from then it was just ice cold water, and you just could not, like, it was just not able to like shower in it. Like, it was so freezing. And like things progressed along. It wasn't like my first month after the first week wasn't that bad. I started making my way up in the program. Started making figured out how to play the system to get to where I needed to be, so I could get out. Because if you didn't play the system, you're just gonna be in a world of hell the whole time.
Was your buddy that you started off with? Was he nice, or was he just a bit of an asshole?
He was a redshirt and he was an asshole. Anytime I would talk, anytime I would say a word to him, it was push-ups. No matter who it was to, no matter what it was about. Even if I was talking to him, he's like, I didn't give you permission to talk. You have to ask me permission to talk. And I told him, how can I ask you permission to talk if I can't talk? That makes absolutely no sense.
Right.
I'm going to ask you to talk and you're going to give me push-ups for it. Like, that's completely stupid.
Yeah.
So he was an asshole the whole time. He used his rank against us. Like, so he would give me push-ups upon push-ups upon push-ups to where I'd be standing on the wall for 8 hours at a time, not able to get off to get a drink. And if I looked off the wall, my time. And I had ADHD, so I can't stand still for a while. Like, so like I would look off the wall anytime I'd hear something, like someone say something stupid, I'd look off and he'd be like, oh, you got push-ups? And I was like, this kid just called my name, or a staff member just called my name. All right, now you got 50, man. If you're not going to do them, I'm just going to write you up and you're going to get like 1,000 at the end of the week.
And you're stuck with this guy, right? So people understand, like, this isn't someone you see once in a while throughout the day. Like, you're stuck with him 24/7. So this is not just occasionally happening. Like, he's giving you push-ups nonstop and looking at everything you're doing all day and actually night too.
Yeah. If I walked without 3 feet of him, he would give me push-ups and he would grab me and pull me back. He's like, you can't walk away from me. And I was like, man, can you just walk a little bit faster? Like, you're expecting me to walk in front of you and not know where you're going, and then you're going to give me push-ups and I'm going to get in trouble for it because I don't know where you want to go. And so he was a redshirt for the majority of his time there. Would always use his rank against people. That's how it was when I first got there. If you had rank, you could do whatever the hell you wanted. They did not care. They did not care. And I figured that out eventually. And so I decided to start ranking up. There was this one day, we were in the gym. It was right after lunch. We had like 20 minutes. They were finally allowing us to get some exercise and just be able to chill in the gym for a little bit. And a kid named Brandon, he was picked on a lot by every student, every staff member, just constantly nonstop picked on for no reason. He was a really cool kid. These kids are throwing a ball at him. Just kept on throwing a ball at him, and the staff are in there watching it. They're on the phones, but they're like watching it all happen. A staff member named Sheldon saw this all happening the whole time, and at one point the kid got so mad he went at the kid, and so Sheldon grabbed the kid, threw him up against the gym wall, and like instead of talking to him calmly, like asking like what happened, like okay, like who was doing it to you, he immediately was screaming and yelling at him, and the kid does not do good with like people yelling at him for no reason. And so the kid was screaming and so was Sheldon. Sheldon eventually like kneed him in the chest, picked him up, slammed him on the ground, and started like punching him, like full out punching him. And they're getting all the kids out of the auditorium, and I'm staying in there because at this time I'm a burgundy shirt, and so I was with Sheldon on a work crew, and so I'm watching this all happen as the ladies up top are walking up on the balcony to go like put stuff away, and the kid calling for staff on the radio, and just kept on slamming the kid, punching, and eventually the kid started throwing up, and he was laying on his back, so the kid was throwing up, like choking out all of his vomit all over, and like he's not like putting the kid on his side. So a kid named Alex, a little like short Mexican kid, saw what was happening because he was in there with me. He ran over and pushed the staff member off of him, not to try and hurt the staff member, but but the kid, but to get the kid on the side so he wouldn't like
choke,
choke on his own vomit. And then Sheldon immediately was like, we need to get him restrained too. And so then within 2 minutes, we had like 15 different staff members in the gym, and they were all on this kid, Brandon, and he's still puking everywhere, still throwing up everywhere. And then they're on Alex, and Alex he's a small kid, but he's really strong, and like he's screaming and yelling. And both restraints lasted a couple hours. Like you could hear screaming all the way in the school, and like they would just not let up at all. And that to me was a huge eye opener. Because even the ladies up top, they were taking videos of it, like, what is going on? Like, this is not supposed to be happening. Like, you do not do this. Like,
they were taking videos?
Yes. And like, the kid didn't do anything wrong. A ball was being thrown at his head multiple times.
Right.
And the staff members didn't do anything to any of the kids who were throwing the ball at him. They have a camera in the gym, didn't do anything to the kid who was throwing the ball at him. Nothing at all.
Well, he's lucky he didn't get a concussion.
Yeah. Well, he probably did, honestly.
Probably.
That's why he was thrown up. Who knows?
Yeah. And so after that happened, I really started not having any respect for staff members at all. I would respect them to their face, but behind the back, I would not give them any respect of the day. I wouldn't talk bad about them, but I would not be the one to like be like, oh yeah, like he's a cool guy to talk to if you need a problem. None of that. I did not feel safe talking to anybody at Agape until maybe my second year there, when new staff members started coming in, better staff members. Eventually, I worked my way up to a captain. So I was head captain for about a year and a half. So head captain got to like run the whole school, and so they were in charge of all the lower ranking students. And at this point, I used my power a little bit to my advantage to get the kids to do what they wanted to do, because I knew if we went into what they call the staff culture, it would not be fun. It would not be good. Kids would be getting restrained left and right. At this time, Brian was not there. He had not come back yet. And I was in the gym with Seth, and we were running Browntown. And I was upstairs on the balcony. I was just having kids run like 2 or 3 laps, take a break for a couple minutes, because it's 80 degrees in that gym. They have no AC at all, so it's hot. And it's in the middle of summer, so they're just running. And downstairs, Seth is working this kid out, and it was a heavy workout. He had a 30-pound sandbag on him, and he was making do high knees nonstop for 10 minutes at a time. And the kid's a small kid. He cannot handle it. And then the kid kind of threw the bag off of him. It was like, man, I'm done. Like, I can't go anymore. Like, my body just can't go anymore. And Duncan grabbed him and like slammed his head against the wall and was screaming at him. And like you could see, as soon as the kid's head hit the wall, he was dizzy, and Seth's just yelling at him, yelling, and then Seth puts it back on him. He's like, "You're gonna keep going." And this is only like 8:00 in the morning, so we just started Browntown.
Oh my goodness!
So the whole time this kid had a 30-pound bag on him, I was working out the whole morning. Eventually, Seth had me bring them all downstairs so they could all do a workout in the gym. Including log rolls that get you super dizzy, and then they make you run for hours on end. Sit-ups, everything. Stuff that, like, these kids are not in shape. So these, like, you can't expect these kids to be doing NFL type of workouts or anything like that, because they just can't handle that. Like, their bodies just aren't used to that. And they're expecting them to go nonstop without stopping at all. And Seth, he would always shoot a basketball while he was doing it. So, like, he'd play basketball while he was working these kids out. And if anytime he saw a kid like not do what he was supposed to do, he'd chuck the ball at him. He'd potentially hit him as hard as he can, and you run up at him and scream at him and everything. I've been in Browntown before where students have ran the Browntown, other captains, and they would walk up to the staff member and say something, and the staff member would turn his back, and then they would go at a kid, hit a kid, do whatever they can just to get in the kid's head, just to make him scared, just to make him cry. Sheldon, the same guy who did the throw-up kid, there was a kid named Brandon there. Nobody liked Brandon because he was just really annoying. One day, Brandon said something about his wife, just a disrespectful comment about his wife. Should not have been said. Should have been punished for it, like a Browntown workout or something, like a reasonable punishment. Instead, he took 2 kids downstairs with the kid, and he put them in the padded room, and he walked out of the room for like 30 minutes. And the whole time, these kids are just wailing on him, nonstop wailing on him. And the kid's screaming and crying. We can hear it in the dining hall. with all the chaos going on in the downhill, everyone talking, you can just hear the kid getting whirled on. And like, it was just like a rough time. Like, honestly, like I don't see any way a kid, if they didn't have any kind of backbone, could have made it through that place, because the amount of physical abuse that was there, and also the mental abuse. Like, the mental abuse is what got me, because I can do any kind of workout you make me. I don't care. I'll do a workout for hours on end. That's something that gets me rid of my anger. But like, if you put me through some mental stuff, like people just can't handle that. Eventually, Brian came back, and then that's when we met the Jurassic Elbow.
No.
The infamous Jurassic Elbow.
Yes, James, the infamous Jurassic Elbow.
Infamous.
The thing that trips me out about that is the fact that people will deny that there's any abuse there. They'll deny that Brian does any abuse or anything like that. But the fact is, it's Jason. This is generations later. I don't talk to Lucas. I don't talk to anyone that went there when Lucas was there. None of our guys do. Like, and the fact that Jurassic Elbow, 20 years later, people coming out of Agape still know what a Jurassic Elbow is because it's still happening. Like, it's not like we all conspire and we all come up with this beforehand. It's still happening there, and the fact that you know what that is, that sucks, man.
He used to brag about it. He used to brag about his Jurassic Elbow, all the time. He would talk about that all the time. One day we were in the cafeteria, and it was a very calm day. I was captain at the time. I had 3 other good captains with me, and like we were all really close. Like, we all were trying to make it more like better for the kids. So we tried running everything, so the staff didn't have to get involved and do everything that they had to do. So we would deal with all the fights and stuff like that before they happened, because I had a lot of friends there who had like the inside information, you can say, about if stuff was going to go down. So I'd make sure when it go down, I would talk to the kids about it, sit them down, make sure they talk face to face, work it out like normal people should do. Because fighting is not something you can do outside and get away with it. If you fight someone in public, you're going to go to jail easy, like, no doubt about it. And there was this kid. His name was Dominic. And Dominic, he just got in. He was an orange shirt, so they shaved his head, and he just got done with brain cancer a couple of years ago. So he had a massive scar in the back of his head. And I remember Brian walking past him and calling him Cancer Head. Like that was the kind of name he would give to him, like Cancer Head. And like that's like the emotional abuse, because like that's a very traumatic experience. Like, going through cancer and making it through is something in and of itself. Like, you have to be a strong enough person to go through it physically, but to go through it mentally and get over it, be able to live your life, it's something hard to do.
And to say something like that, I mean, you've got to be a complete scumfuck to be saying stuff like that, especially for somebody who has just, gotten over cancer. And the fact is, it wasn't so. I mean, it was bad enough that you had that guy Seth. Now you got Brian. I mean, it just makes it worse.
It was much worse. I mean? And there was other staff members there, like Ben, who were big guys, but they were the ones that would talk to you. And if they had to restrain you, they're not going to restrain you extremely hard. They're not going to put bruises all over your body and make it to where you can't feel your arms for days on end. And I'll tell you a story about that in a couple of minutes.
Okay.
But
when you were an orange shirt, you started off as an orange shirt, right?
Yes, sir.
How long were you an orange shirt?
I was an orange shirt for 8 days.
Oh, just 8.
Wow.
Okay, 8 days.
You,
wow, that's short.
I went through that fast. At that time, even when you were yellow shirt, you still had the same guide. So until you were out of a yellow shirt, you could not get rid of your guide. So I was in a yellow shirt for 2.5 weeks. It was a lot longer than that.
Okay.
And so this kid, Dominic, he just got in, first day in, a couple hours in, first time seeing Brian, and like the kid like screams at Brian, like just cusses him out, and Brian grabs him and takes him downstairs. I wasn't allowed to go down there. Every time I saw a restraint getting initiated, I always was the one asking to go down so I could see what they were doing firsthand, just because I want to see what they're doing.
Yeah.
So they took him downstairs with another staff member. He came back up an hour later, drenched in sweat. His body's red all over. Legs are wobbly because like all the adrenaline's going through his body and everything hurts. And like the kid just sitting down crying. And like Dominic, he's one of my best friends now. Like he lives right next to me, so we hang out all the time. But like we talk about that kind of stuff all the time, like just how traumatic, like the mental part. Because like we can both get through the physical part. I was born in Detroit. So I grew up in some in some shady areas, but like I can deal with the physical aspect of it. That doesn't bother me, but the mental part it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
And Brian one day was doing a bathroom run. At one point, we had no stall doors on the bathrooms, so he would push everybody into the bathroom that wanted to go to the bathroom, and you had to stay there and look at the guy taking a shit, and you couldn't leave the bathroom until everyone was done. And we had no stall doors on it, no nothing, no privacy at all. And I was a captain, and there was this kid. We called him Hamster. Hamster was like nodding his head like this on the wall, like not even hard. He was just disappointed in what he did. He knew what he did was wrong. And Brian saw like a red shirt walking by the bathroom, and I was right there by the bathroom. And Brian's like, if you walk past Hamster on the wall and he's still banging his head, I want you to slam his head against the wall as hard as you can. As hard as you can. And so the kid walks right past him, he's still doing it. So the kid grabs his head and slams it against the wall. And like the kid's crying and everything like that, and Brian literally gave him a high five. He's like, "Thank you." Like that's what needed to be done.
Sadist. That's all I gotta say.
And just
crazy.
And just to clarify that, so the kid was standing on the wall as a punishment, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So he wasn't. So he's standing on the wall as a punishment already because he did something wrong, and then he's like hitting his head against the wall because man, I screwed up.
Yep.
And then Brian's like, "Hey, dude, if he keeps doing that, slam his head against the wall." And this other red shirt just freaking. Bam!
As hard as he could. Yep.
Man, that's
and like it would be one thing if he did that, but for him to tell another student to do that, and then to give praise to the student who did that, but then if someone else got in a fight or did something like that, they would be in a brown shirt immediately.
Right.
It's ridiculous. Like you just gotta keep, what you're gonna like your discipline in order. It's gotta be the same for everybody. You can't have favoritism.
It sounds like, and I'm hearing this more and more now because I've talked to a few guys that left more recently. It seems like Jason. The students do the punishments to get the staff off hands clean. That the staff member, I didn't slam him, I didn't beat him up, but you did put him in there in the padded room with two other students and told them to beat him up. But the staff didn't do anything. Oh, we didn't do it. And it's like
well, if the authorities get involved, it's their word against the staff member. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. So, the staff's going to be like, oh, we didn't tell him to do it, but it's like, but you did put him in there. Because that's.
Oh,
these are good stories, man. I know it's probably like not easy to talk about them, but like I appreciate you that you have so many details on them, and I appreciate you sharing it unemotionally. Like these are just factual things that happened at the school that you witnessed.
I get goosebumps when I talk about it. I literally get goosebumps right now. I'm freezing right now because just talking about it.
Yeah.
Another story with Hamster. Hamster was one of my really close friends. I think he was 15. I became really good friends with him to help him through it because he was going through a lot. Like he lost his brother while he was there. He lost a couple of loved ones while I was there.
Wow.
Same guy, Seth. He was still there. And I believe he was a burgundy shirt at this point. So he was doing pretty good. He was doing the bare minimum to get to where he needed to be to have most of the perks that a student was allowed to have. And one day someone was just pissing him off, and he was just getting really emotional. Got put on the wall. But the thing with some people is you use your hands a lot to talk. Like I use my hands a lot to talk. So when he would talk, he would raise his hands. And Julio was like, if you raise your hands at me, you're gonna go downstairs because I see that as a threat. Mind you, Julio's 5'10", maybe 250 pounds. He can bench 450. He's a massive guy.
Oh.
He used to be he was in the UFC. Like he used to do he can fight. Like the kid can fight. He used to be an ex-gangbanger, so he knows how to fight. And mind you, this is a 14-year-old kid who grew up in his mom and dad's house and hasn't been through this kind of stuff before. And so he raises his hands again, and I'm right there next to him because there was a problem with me. He was having a problem with me giving him discipline. And it was over something stupid, but he just kept on making it something more, so I just kept on giving him some more push-ups, trying to get him to do it calmly as I could. I was getting a little bit frustrated, but I was like, Hamster, bro, just be doing the push-ups, man. If anything, it's only gonna get you stronger, bro. It's gonna help you take out your anger. It's only gonna get you stronger. And then so I took it to staff because I was like, brother Julio, man, he's having a hard time doing this. Can you make him do it? Can you tell him to do it? Because he'll do it if he hears you say he's gonna do it. And so then eventually Seth took him downstairs. And it was just me and Seth downstairs, and he's having the kid do 8 counts. 500 in a row without any messed ups. Anytime he messed up, we would go back down to cereal, and we couldn't get upstairs and eat dinner until he would do the 8 counts. The kid got reset multiple times for putting his hands up because Seth was just saying stupid stuff to him, just trying to make him mad, egging him on to get a response out of him. Seth's sitting in a chair, and I'm standing maybe 2 feet away from him. And Seth goes, "If you raise your hands one more time, I'm gonna restrain you." And the kid's at like 450, and he does a pretty good one, but got up a little bit slow because he's tired. And Seth goes, "You're at 0." And the kid goes like, "Come on," like just throws his hands up just a little bit. Seth jumps off his chair. Mind you, this kid at soccer camp in June, maybe 5 months earlier, snapped his arm in half, completely broken in half, completely snapped in half. So like he really can't do push-ups very well. His wrist is not bent like a normal person's wrist does. Picks him up, tackles him into the wall, picks him up, slams him as hard as he can onto the ground, and the kid screaming, "My arm, my arm, my arm!" And Duncan knows exactly which arm it is, and so he puts his hand on the arm, and I'm like, "Seth, like, bro, like his arm, you could have snapped it again. Like we should probably like get him some medical attention." He goes, "No, he needs to get restrained." He's like, "Put your knee on his arm," and so I put my knee on his arm. Oh man! And like within this was an hour and a half restraint easy, and this kid's like freaking out, screaming. Julio comes downstairs. Timmons comes downstairs, and so we have 2 guys on legs. I'm on the arm. Julio's on the arm, and Duncan's on his head, just like holding his head down. And the kid's screaming, and like you can feel the sweat coming up off the kid, like his drenched, and he's just screaming. Finally, we're getting towards the end of the restraint, and they're like, "Okay, you need to like calm your breathing down." He's trying to calm his breathing down, and then he says something. Like I believe he was going to apologize, and as we were getting him up, they threw him back down on the ground again and did the exact same thing again, over, because he said something. And the kid's crying. Eventually it stopped, and like he went to he went down to the shower bay. No dinner that night because the dinner was gone, and he was like, "No, there's no time to make you dinner. You gotta go shower and get ready for bed." And the kid just like crying hysterically, it was a bad situation for me because I felt terrible. Because I saw the whole thing happen, I couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
One day, a kid came in. His name was John. Big kid, big good wrestler. I wasn't downstairs to witness what happened, but he got restrained, and for months after, he couldn't feel his arm. Like his hand would like dangle like this from nerve damage, and so he couldn't feel his arm. For months after, like he couldn't feel his hands or his arm, and it would just like dangle like this. They didn't take him to the doctor or anything like that, nothing like that. They told him it'll get better over time, Eventually it got better, but like he still gets the tingles in his arm sometimes and his hand. That was mind-blowing to me, because if you're going to restrain a kid and not take him to the doctor because he's a brand new kid, because you're afraid he's going to run, but he can't feel his arm, or like he can't move his hand the right way, like that's just ridiculous.
You know, James, this is the kind of shit that just angers me, man. You know, this is supposed to be a Christian organization. Yeah. You know, giving you good morals and values, and all they're doing is beating the shit out of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and it's justified because, you know, it's in the name of the Lord, and they got to beat the evil out of you. But like that, I was just listening to Missouri legislative people met on Monday. I don't know if you knew this or not, Lucas, but I was like watching that, and the state people were talking about restraints. And they said that you only are supposed to use restraints when a child is putting himself in danger. So if he's about to jump off a cliff to kill himself or something like that, you know, then you restrain him. Never as a punishment are you supposed to be used. And these stories, like that's why it's important that these stories get out, because these stories they're being punished. These kids are not out of control. Maybe they're verbally out of control. They're speaking whatever, but they're not trying to harm themselves. But these staff members are using these pressure points and these restraints and everything as a means of punishing the kids, which is completely against what the state says that you're supposed to use restraints for. So, but the problem is they have no visibility. Like, and you're talking about cameras there. I didn't know that cameras at Agape. Like, I would love to see the footage of this stuff. You know, like that kid that was thrown up in the basketball court. You know, like after being beat up by a staff member. Like, that's got to be on film. Deleted it.
And the sad thing is, it's all under the church, so they can't get prosecuted for it because it's separation of state and church.
Oh, so they can get prosecuted. They can get prosecuted. It just takes a little bit more to do it though, because it is a church. Yeah, but and you were talking about the girls up on top there while that guy was being, and they had video cameras. They must have had phones.
Yeah,
or something.
There was a video that one of the lunch ladies had. I'm not sure if she still has it. I'm not sure if Brian made her delete it or what happened. But there was a video of it, like of the kid puking all over himself, and the kid became a brown shirt because of it.
Yeah.
Because he was getting bullied and beat up on, and he tried to defend himself because he felt like he was threatened. And the kids who were threatening him and like beating up on him and everything, nothing happened to them. Nothing happened to them at all. And at that point, I had a lot of respect for that staff member. At that point, I lost every ounce of respect I ever gave to that staff member, ever. And it's crazy.
I don't even know these idiots, and I've lost all respect for all the staff members over there.
Yep.
Yeah, it's man.
That is no way to treat a kid. I mean, yeah, sure, a kid can be, can be defiant at times, yells, cusses. Okay, use the proper way to deal with that. Don't slam them on the ground, especially if somebody's already had a broken arm, because even an arm that's healed up can still be rebroke.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Easily.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they have the medical records of these kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I broke a couple bones while I was there. It was not my fault, like playing sports and stuff like that. And they would take me to doctors, but it would take months to get in. I remember I had to go get a CAT scan or a CT scan for my knee. And I was a captain at the time. I was walking around because they thought I tore my meniscus. I was walking around on this knee for 2 or 3 months before I even got it looked at. And it would take forever for them to get a doctor's appointment. Forever. It was ridiculous. And then if we took a kid who was a brown shirt out who had to go to this doctor's appointment, it was during lunchtime. So if it was during lunchtime, like the Scott was the head of the medicine there, and he would take us out to lunch, and we get $10 to spend, which is reasonable because like if we're going to fast food, you really only need $10 to spend. But if the kid was a brown shirt, he wouldn't let them eat, or he'd bring them a peanut butter sandwich, and they would have to eat that while we're eating Taco Bell up in front of them and drinking sodas and stuff like that in front of them. And I was a brown shirt for a while because I tried running one time, and I was a brown shirt for a month and a half, and every morning I had one bowl of unsweetened Cheerios, and for lunch 2 peanut butter sandwiches and 1 glass of water. After working out for 8 hours that morning, and then going back to at dinner again. And the kids would sit there and run the brown tables, and it was right in front of Brian. And if we asked for water, we couldn't go get water. We could only get 1 glass of water at the time that we were able to go get our food for dinner. But by that time, most of the cups are gone. And so then, if most of the cups are gone, we got like 2 seconds at the drinking fountain for water for like the whole day.
See, they didn't give you water during PT? Like when you're doing the PT, when you're doing the physical training and stuff like that, they didn't give you like water breaks with the hose. Like they used to do that with us. Like every like few hours, they'd be like, "Okay, you get 3 seconds of water, and you have to come up and like gulp it down for like 3 seconds."
We would have, and we get water in the morning. One time during the workout, and then if we were outside, like we used to haul rocks for hours for no reason. For Brian's imaginary paintball place you want to set up. Haul rocks for hours as a whole punishment. No one was doing anything wrong, just because he didn't want us to go to school that morning, and it's the middle of summer. It's 98 degrees outside, and we're hauling rocks. And the whole time we were hauling rocks, because there was a hole in the body, we couldn't get water. As we're walking back in, we couldn't get water. Some kids would run to the water fountain and get water, and then they would yell at us and tell us to put it down. And then we'd get back in by lunchtime, and we'd all run to the water fountain, and then or the sink, and we just start drinking out of the sink. And Brian's like, if you guys keep on doing that, we're gonna go back outside after lunch, and there'll be no free time at all. And so then we would gulp water down, and it got to the point where the whole student body was only allowed to have 1 cup of water during the meal, because people would be thirsty, and we'd get up and walk around in the meal to go get water. And I like to drink a lot of fluids. I'm always drinking something, Gatorade or water. And there, I barely drink water. I probably had 3 glasses of water a day, 2 probably a day, and it was just crazy. And there'd be fights. I remember there's one time there was a fight between a redshirt, my buddy actually, my guide at the time. I was further along in the program, so I was a redshirt as well. It was over TV. He's from Brazil. So he wanted to watch something about cars, and like we were only supposed to watch something about sports. We were only allowed to watch Sports Center, and it depended on what it was. And so this kid named Levi, from St. Louis, Missouri, was in gangs, everything like that. Gustavo just kept on talking smack to him, and then told him like to post up. And so the kid posted up, and mind you, the staff members were sitting around watching the whole thing happen, just letting it happen. And it was like a huge brawl with like 30, 40 different people at the TV. After everything happened, no staff member broke it up. It was eventually kids pulling like kids off of each other after maybe 5 minutes of everyone fighting, and then they just told us to shut the TV down for a while, and they went on like it was nothing. And then we're walking to school the next day, and the same kid Gustavo. Mind you, if you get in a fight, normally it's a brown shirt, automatic brown shirt, because like it's a no fighting, like no tolerance for that. Unless you're defending yourself. There was this kid named Cody, real loudmouth. Eventually became a staff member there. He's still a staff member. Runs his mouth all the time. Thinks he's the shit. He's really just not a great guy at all. And this kid spit on him. Cody spit on this kid. So the kid went at him. Was hitting him for a couple minutes on minutes, and eventually smacked him at the end just to show him like, oh, like I'm daddy kind of thing. Like it was a joke for the other kid. And David was one of the staff members, one of the good staff members that was there when I first got there. And he pulled the other kid off of him, and this kid was messed up. This kid got messed up pretty bad. Probably broke his nose, blood was all over his face. Instead of taking him to the doctor, they just put him back in school. Gave him some ibuprofen, 400 milligrams of ibuprofen. Put him back in school, and took him maybe 2 months to go get his glasses fixed. Mind you, the kid can't see. He's blind as a bat. He can't see, so he's walking around all the time, can barely see. And it was just crazy. There's so many fight stories. So many people got jumped in the shower bay. I got in a fight one time. Kid was talking trash about my mom. I didn't deal with that well right when I first got there. Just saying some stupid stuff. So I got in a fight with him. Staff members didn't care. Me and the kid eventually worked it out. It was fine. I apologize because it was my stupid actions. I shouldn't have let it got there. And
it was his fault for talking about your mom, for one thing.
Yeah, and like
that's the one rule. You don't talk about somebody's mother. You know what I mean?
Like, I know he's never gonna meet my mom or see my mom, but like still, like that's just like it's a line you don't cross.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like, it's just a line you don't cross. Like I'm not gonna like you can say something about like my girlfriend back at home or like maybe my sister. Like my sister's still kind of iffy, but like if you say something about my mom, like although she didn't give birth to me, but like I still have a connection to her. Like that's still my mom. Like you're not gonna talk bad about my mom and get away with it. Like that's just not how you do it. There was a fight on the dorm floor one morning. Schaefer, a nice guy, ran staff. He was a student at Agape. He's on ranch, so he doesn't restrain anybody. He wasn't taught properly how to restrain anybody. I was probably taught more how to restrain kids as a captain, as an intern, than he was as a staff member. Fight. It was like 6:30 in the morning. Fight broke out. It was done for like 2 minutes, and Schaefer comes running over and slams one of the kids that was in the fight. Way after it all happened. No need for it at all. And Julio was right there, and all Julio said was that wasn't really necessary, but but whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like just like the way that they would even in the square, we had something called the square with these marble like granite tables that didn't move. Kids would get slammed on these tables. Their heads would get hit off the tables because like instead of pulling them off the kid, they would just pick up the kid and slam him and get him in restraint. And they would restrain the kids in front of the whole student body, in front of in front of the families there. The kid would be screaming and yelling, and if you turned around and looked back at what was happening, then you would get in trouble and you would get restrained. It was wild. And on the dorm floor, one person said a word, they would keep the lights on all night. I remember one night, some kid was just being stupid. They knew who the kid was. They could have disciplined the kid, put him in a different shirt color, gave him brown food in the morning as a punishment, something like that. But instead, it's like 10:30 at night. Everyone's asleep, and one of the staff members brings out a trombone and just starts playing his trombone on the dorm floor. He doesn't know how to play, just loud and obnoxious, being stupid, wakes everyone up for like an hour, and then we all eventually go back to sleep again at like 5 o'clock in the morning. Just wakes everybody up, does it all night long. Wow. And then they expect us to get up and go to school that day and not fall asleep in school.
Yeah.
We're dog tired. Like, we get up at 6 o'clock every morning. That's not a big deal. I do that now. But, like, if I don't get enough sleep, like, I'm going to be tired throughout the day. Like, I even take naps sometimes. But, like, if you're going to expect me to go do a full day of work and not be tired and not slack off on my schoolwork a little bit because I don't get enough sleep, that's just, like, you just can't do that. And then at one point, while we're all, everywhere, so, like, when I said we didn't have any stall doors on the bathrooms, dorm floor, we only had 2 bathrooms. Only one of them worked, and they would take the stall doors off the bathroom. And so while you're trying to sleep, you could literally see a guy taking a shit in front of you, and, like, it was nothing. But then the staff members would go in the back and take a poop in peace, and then they'd come back out. And staff aren't allowed to give students food at all, because, like, it just supposed to be no, like, it's just a no for them. But staff members would bring food up at, like, 12 o'clock at night, wake some of the captains up, and, like, give them pizza and all this kind of stuff right in front of the other, like, just, like, throw up in their face and everything like that. Sometimes, if Brian knew a kid was going on a visit and he did one thing stupid, he would demote him to a shirt color so he couldn't go off campus for his visit. And then his parents would get all mad at him because, like, they were expecting him to go off.
It was his fault, right?
Right.
They made it seem like it was the kid's fault. He did something stupid.
It was something as stupid as, like, maybe he cussed out a red shirt, but the red shirt was pushing him on, egging him on, giving him unjust consequences.
Right.
Didn't ask the kid for what happened. Didn't ask anyone around him. Just asked the red shirt, and the red shirt was like, "Oh, he cussed me out because he didn't do my push-ups." Brian's like, "Okay, you're a yellow shirt now." And the kid's visits in 8 hours, and he wakes up the next morning, and Brian would not let them go off campus after 8 months of not seeing your kid, or 4 months of not seeing your kid, not being able to spend any quality time with them. You can't go off campus.
But see, from their point of view, though, like, if you think about that, that's like I don't know if you call it job security or it's good for business for them, because now your parents are showing up to see you, right? And you just got in trouble, and now you can't go off campus. You can't do this because you got in trouble. It's just telling your parents, hey, man, he hasn't gotten any better. He's still misbehaving. He's still, like, it makes a parent, and if parents are thinking about bringing you home, maybe because oh, you're doing so good. Well, no, maybe he's not doing that great. You know, we'll keep him there longer. You know,
that's what happened to me. That's why I spent 2.5 years at that place. I did okay my first 4 months. My first 4 months were rocky, shaky. I was going through some stuff. The first 4 months aren't going to be the best. It's just, you're just in a new place. Started doing really good. Became a redshirt before my year, which is extremely hard to do back then when I first got there, because they didn't make anybody a redshirt. We only had one captain there my whole year, the first time there. Became a redshirt. Expecting to go home on my year visit. Julio takes my parents in the office. My mom and dad were planning on taking me home. We were talking about it. Maybe not that visit, but maybe like a couple weeks down the road. They're going to get everything set up. Julio talks to my parents. They come back out. Nah, he says you're not doing very well. You need to stay here longer. Okay, whatever. I'll just go captain and prove to them I don't need to be here longer.
Right.
And so then I went captain. Everything was going good. And then I was talking to Brian, and Brian was like, "Yeah, I think you're ready to go home." And then I would sit down and talk to my parents on the phone, and they'd be like, "No, we talked about Julio this week. You did this to this one kid. Like, we think you still need some more time there. You've been acting up. You've been giving some attitude, some bullshit excuse for me to stay there." And I couldn't tell my parents anything because.
Right.
Julio was shoving so much shit down the throat that they believed it, and that they couldn't, and I couldn't do anything about it. So at that point, I figured I was here till I'm 18. I'm gonna do what I can do, and I'm gonna get out. Eventually,
Did you graduate there?
I did not. No, sir. I did not.
Did your files transfer to a public school?
No, sir. I went to a public school.
Oh man,
I have to do 3 years of English this year, just so I can graduate. 3 years of English in 1 year.
That ACE program is garbage.
Right. See, that is another crucial thing. It's like your parents. Hopefully, parents are watching this. They're thinking about it. They're thinking you're going to get a good education, a good this and that. It's like, thank God, no one at any job I've gotten has asked me to see my high school diploma, right? Because I graduated from Agape. They just say, "Do you have a high school diploma?" I'm like, "Yeah, I went to a boarding school in Missouri." And they're like, "Okay." They don't question it. But if they ever wanted to see my diploma and actually check the validity of it, or try to go to college or whatever, like, I'm screwed,
The kind of English that I was doing that my counselor at my high school says now, I was supposed to do. I went there in the middle of 10th grade, so I was supposed to do 10th, 11th, and 12th grade high school English there. Yeah. I ended up doing. They gave me 8th grade, 9th grade, and 10th grade English, and so the hours I spent on those paces, busting my ass to get those paces done, did not count for anything. So all the time I wasted, not going to free time, sitting in school for 10 hours a day, trying to go home, trying to graduate to get my paces done, didn't.
Nothing.
It gives me nothing at all.
Well, do they still test you when you come in? Test your knowledge to see how smart you are? Like they used to do like a aptitude test or something like that, right?
The diagnostic test. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. There was a kid who was 17, amazing baseball player, really cool kid. Got involved with drugs, did some stupid stuff, went through some hard times. He got 3rd grade math paces, 3rd grade English paces. And they're expecting this kid to go home and graduate there. He's 17.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. We had kids like that too. They got there when they're 17 and like, man, I only have 1 year to go. But the parents are like, no, you're there till you graduate. And they're being put in like 3rd, 4th grade paces, and like basically 3rd, 4th grade work. And they have to work their way all the way up within 1 year, year and a half to graduate. Like the
amount of paces you have to do, 12 paces per credit, and they don't eventually they would let you skip some if you were doing really good.
Right.
But like, still, once you got to a certain point, you couldn't skip anymore. So you had to do 3 years of schoolwork just to get to where you are, just for it to count for you.
Yep, and it's crazy. And then if I'm not sure if they still do this, but it used to be if you get in trouble or if they don't like you, they just give you more grades to do. So all of a sudden, like, you get in trouble, right? And then all of a sudden they're like, you know what? You didn't have to do chemistry to graduate, but now you have to do chemistry.
Right.
It's like, yeah. And then all that to be said, to get done with it and not to have any credits for high school.
I was so mad because I spent my ass. I even did tutoring for English.
Yeah.
And the amount of money my parents paid for me to tutor for English, for it not to count.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
That's another thing. The amount of money your parents had to spend.
Yeah.
On that shit place. Yeah.
Right. You get a better education at a public school that's for free, than. Oh my gosh.
It was
ridiculous.
It was wild.
So combined with the fact you had the physical abuse and you have the mental abuse, and now you find out you can't even graduate. I mean, that's a lot to put on a kid. You know what I mean?
Oh, there's more. So
There's more.
Oh, there's more.
Wow.
As I leave, so I'm an intern, and one night we're watching the VMA awards. Like me and I think we had 6 interns at the time. I was more like the head intern, and I lived with the roommate. I walked out with him, and like we still lived together. His mom was more than blessing me to allow me to live at her house until I get on my feet, right? And so I'm still living with them, still going to my school and doing everything. Watching the VMA awards. They're like so strict on the music there. It was a Fetty Wap song. Like, come on, like it's not that bad. We were watching it, and Brian comes in and starts screaming, yelling at us, everything like that. And at that point, I was like, man, I'm done. Like, I'm done with this bullshit. With all the let us live a little bit. Like, you're gonna expect us to go and leave Agape and be 100% perfect. Let us still be ourselves. I'm not gonna change my personality or what I like just to fit it for you, just so that you can have a good boarding school, so-called. And so it's like 11 o'clock at night. We get back to the dorm floor, and I'm pissed. I'm beyond pissed. And I walk up to Austin. I was like, Austin, I'm leaving tomorrow. Like, you can come with me or you can stay here, but like, the amount of shit that they did, like, I'm leaving tomorrow. Like, I'm done with this place. I've been here 2.5 years. I've paid my time. I've done what I should be home right now with my family, becoming a man of myself. I used to play sports. I was a really good football player, really good baseball player, really, really good. All my high school friends all have scholarships to go play D2 baseball in Michigan, D2 football in Michigan. And they're all having a great time, and they're all doing good. And I used to hang out with them all the time. Not bad kids. And so I pack up all my stuff that night. I tear up my paces, give them my paces. I'm done. I'm not coming back. I'm leaving tomorrow. You're supposed to, if you want to walk out, you're supposed to be able to walk out when you want to. So I'm gonna walk out the next morning. They should just go grab your bags, let you call your parents, tell them to walk out, and take you to a homeless shelter. Is what they're supposed to do, because that's what they said they're gonna do. Give you your ID and then give you the money in your student account, so you're not completely broke when you get out there, so you can try and make something of yourself. So me and Austin decided to walk out, and it's like 2 o'clock before we finally get to talk to our parents. So we're calling our parents, and it's a whole process, an hour long, everything like that. Brian drives us. He didn't give us any of our IDs. So in Missouri, if you get caught with an ID, without an ID, you go to jail until they can figure out who you are. Like if you get picked up by the cops, like you go to jail if you have no ID. So we're driving to. They dropped us off. They told Austin's mom and my mom that they were going to take us to a homeless shelter in Kansas City, which is what they normally do, or in Springfield. They drove to Joplin. Brian drove to Joplin, dropped us off at a Greyhound bus station with a bag of our clothes, none of our student money, no ID, and just left us there, expecting us to make something of ourselves at a gas station in the middle of nowhere.
Wait, and how old were you at this time?
I was 18.
You were 18, and so was Austin? Yes.
He ripped you off.
Yep.
My goodness.
Do you know how much money roughly was in that student account that you were supposed to get, roughly?
I've been told at all times you had $120 in your student account for doctor's appointments, and if you have to go get food off campus, so they can pay for your food. $120. I got $0. I actually had $50 because a lunch lady who I was close with, she knew I was walking out, and she slipped me $50. And she eventually got fired because Brian found out about it.
Jesus
no Christ. Money, nothing. Me and him were just walking on the side of the road. Luckily, we went to a church. A pastor went out and bought us some clothes, got us a phone, so Austin could get in contact with his mom. My mom and dad didn't want me back at home because they believed everything Agape said. Didn't think I was ready to come home. So I haven't talked to my dad. Like now I'm doing good, but like for 2 weeks we were at a homeless shelter, walking around every day trying to find a job, trying to get some kind of money. Had no money, so we only ate 2 times a day at the homeless shelter. And no contact with anybody.
When did you leave again?
I left in March.
This year?
Yes, sir.
Oh, wow. I don't know why I was thinking it was a while ago that you left.
No, I was there from 2017 till 2020.
Holy crap, dude. I'm sorry, man. Like, that is like...
Geez. And another thing is, like, church. I don't mind going to church every day. Okay, it got annoying after a while, but like the Wings of Faith school, I'm still in contact with some of the Wings of Faith people. I talk to them sometimes. I actually gave some people your information because they want to talk to you about it.
Right, I got them scheduled in.
Yep.
That's awesome. Thank goodness.
And if you took one glance over there, they would pull you out of service, or you would get demoted. You took one glance at a staff daughter because she was walked in front of you, or they thought that you were like talking about her. Demoted, most likely restrained, something like that. It was never a talk. It was always them, always trying to do something to you.
There wasn't any type of sexual abuse over there, was there, while you were there?
I heard rumors of, actually, one day there was 2 kids caught in a stall together, who like were doing stuff in the stall together.
That's not really abuse. That's more like guys just expressing themselves, you know.
Yeah. I heard a lady, one of the lunch ladies, was having sexual relations with one of the students. I'm not sure if it was against his will or not, but it was pretty obvious. Brian didn't do anything about it until it became a whole big scene, and everybody knew about it. What else was there? There was some staff ladies who would purposely, like, I guess you could say, like, kind of like lead you on, or kind of like do like sexual things to you, and then if you like did anything back or did something, they would tell their husbands, and then you get in massive amounts of trouble. I wasn't I wasn't I wasn't a part of anything like that. I didn't hear anything about sexual abuse there.
Well, that's good at least. I mean,
yeah, I heard stuff from some staff members after I've left that like abused their wives, and some kids are saying that they were sexually abused by staff members. But I don't know if that's true or not because I wasn't there for that part.
Alleged, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Man, that's crazy. And I know you mentioned a while ago, but the Wings of Faith, I didn't even know what that was until recently. So that's Agape's girl boarding school that they run, right?
According to the girl I talked to, she says like 5 minutes away.
Really? Yes, it's 2 miles down the road. Yeah.
2 miles down the road. It's very close.
I wonder because when I was there, when I was at Agape, we helped Brother Brian Clemenson build his own boarding school, which was called Trinity. And it was literally about like 2 to 3 miles down the road from Agape. I wonder if they converted Trinity into this girls' boarding school because
they may have.
I wonder. I'm gonna actually.
At one point, my parents was gonna send my sister to a boarding school, and they called Julio, and Julio was like trying to convince them, like die hard trying to convince them to send her to Wings of Faith.
Where did your parents get the idea of sending you to Agape? Did they go to a church where a church member was telling them? Take them to this school or
no, what happened was they were looking up on like they spent like a couple weeks doing a lot of research, and then they were told that it was the best place for them. For me, they sent them my resume of like how bad I was. At first I was turned down, but then one night they called and like that's when I came like immediately. Like they called it, okay, yeah, we can take him now.
Well, from good news to bad news. Remember, James, when we talked to Devin that one time, he was saying that they spend a lot of money to have their thing right up on the top of Google, the Google page. Yeah. Yep. So when you hit on Google, the Agape or any type of boarding school, it's going to come right up on the first.
Yep.
Right on the very top.
And
wow.
And the thing is, like my mom and dad know how much I love sports. Like sports have been part of my life since I was very little. And that's how I express myself. I play sports year round. I'm still playing football. Luckily, I'm able to play football for a Texas high school. But like they're like, oh, this has a nice sports program. You do a lot of sports there all year round. But they didn't know that was 1 week out of the year. And
right, yeah, football camp, whatever, right?
Right. Yeah. And then I eventually was able to make it onto the basketball team. But unless you were bringing shirt in good standings, you weren't able to go anywhere.
Right.
And even when we weren't anywhere, I went to 2 overnight tournaments in Arkansas. Probably like the best time of Agape because David, the coach, I was really close with. He was a really nice guy. He eventually left because he saw what was happening and he didn't want to stand for it. But like he would let us be ourselves there. Obviously, like we weren't allowed to like fornicate with girls, but like we could talk. Like if someone came up to us, we could talk to them. And so like I talked to a couple people. I'm still in contact with some people I met there. But when Brian came with us the second year, they were there again and they remembered me, so they came up and said hi. I talked to him for a couple minutes, and Brian pulled me aside. I was captain. He's like, if you talk to those girls again, you're gonna go like I'm gonna drive you back home tonight, and you're gonna be a brown shirt. And so like it just ruined the whole mood of the tournament. Anytime we were ever out, if there was a woman waiter that he thought was any kind of like distraction to us, he'd always ask for a different waiter. Stuff like that. Like he would just not let us be normal.
You know, it's good and bad that coach left. Good as in he did leave, but bad is he should have gone straight to the authorities and said, "This is what's going on. You need to investigate it."
And the sad thing is they have Deputy Graves, who was a former student there.
Yeah, he was staff when I was there.
Yes, I heard about they had sheriffs and everything there. So
yep. And he comes around all the time with some of his police buddies. And anytime anything happens, they call him. They don't call the sheriff's department. They call him. Yeah. And so he takes care of it, off the book, off the record, everything like that.
Makes you wonder if he gets a kickback from that place.
Yeah, I'm sure he does.
Yeah. Another thing I was listening to that legislative hearing is they interviewed the CHP because the CHP is the ones that come in and investigate when there's an allegation in one of these institutions. But the CHP said that they the local authorities are when they're alerted about an allegation on one of these boarding schools, sexual, physical, whatever. The local authorities then go to the CHP, and they come investigate. The CHP won't just go to Agape on their own free will. The CHP has to be alerted by local authorities, and Robert Graves is the local authority in Stockton, Missouri, that helps run the. It's just like, I wonder how much stuff got sent to, that sheriff station, whatever, and then he's there and he's just like not passing it on to the CHP.
And his daughter works there too.
How much stuff?
Dispatch, huh?
Mm-hmm.
How much do you think was swept under the rug? You know what I mean?
Right. A lot of it.
Yeah. Man.
There was a couple times I remember. You'll get a kick out of this. I was a brown shirt. It's in the middle of November, and it was like maybe 20 degrees outside. They had us running outside for hours around the campus while it's sleeting outside. All we could do was, and all we were wearing was a jean jacket and pants, and we were running outside for hours. And one of the neighbors who wasn't a part of Agape called CPS on them, and they came in and they questioned some of the kids. But guess who was sitting right there while we were being questioned?
Brian
or Deputy Graves. And so you couldn't say anything.
You right.
Because if you say something,
interesting. Right.
Because even if get consequences.
Even if Graves is there, so you think, okay, I'm sitting with a police officer, I could say something now, but it's Graves. He's going to go to Brian and tell them, like, look, hey man, Lucas was telling the CPS agent that you guys are abusing, and like, then your life is living hell at Agape. Like, oh my gosh, like the abuse just gets worse. And that's another thing that they didn't cover too much in this hearing, that they talked about the abuse and how it can happen and taking care of it in a timely manner, but they didn't talk to any of the kids and understand that, like, you can't say anything. You try to tell your family, you try to tell authority, you try to do whatever. Even if CPS does come in within a month or two to investigate, your life is a living hell as a student. You're getting beat up, abused for those 2 months before they finally get there to investigate. So are you going to say something? Of course you're not going to say something, because they're going to make your life a living hell.
They rule by fear, basically.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Wow.
Man. So so now that you're back in the real, like, just recently out in the real world, right? Mm-hmm. Like, how is it, dude? Like, I mean, you're having to adjust to everything, COVID, reality, girls, everything like that.
A door in the bathroom now?
Yeah. Right?
I mean, it's crazy. I remember when I first got out, like, when we were homeless, like, we heard of COVID, we knew it was a pandemic, but like when we were out, like, me and Austin didn't know we had to wear masks anywhere, and like how bad it was, how serious it was. Like the first night we were out, and we were taking a shower in the homeless shelter. Like, I think I took an hour shower. Like, I just sat in there and like let the water come over me, because it was the first time I was able to, like, just to think to myself about everything that was going on. Because you don't get any alone time at Agape at all. There's always 150 kids around you at all times.
Right.
And it was hard. Like you become very socially awkward while you're in there. So like I used to be very good talking to people. So when I first got out for the first couple months, like, I just didn't know how to talk to people. I was very dry. I was like, I don't really know how to talk to people anymore. Eventually I was able to, like, figure it out again and start talking to people. But I didn't do drugs before I got to Agape. Now I smoke weed sometimes. Like, it's like what you go through. Like, I'm not gonna say I get PTSD from it, but like you think about it a lot. Like, it goes through your mind a lot. And it was sad, because Julio, he would talk about sometimes about how he would smoke weed and how fun it was, like, when we were like one-on-one with us, and like he would do all that kind of stuff. But then if he hears you talking about it to another student, like, immediately you get in so much trouble. And I know sometimes I was with him on car rides going to Jefferson City, stuff like that, and he'd play music that we were like, that Brian or the church would not allow us to listen to at all. And he'd like, make sure when you guys get back in, don't say anything about listening to music, nothing like that, so he could cover his tracks up. Like, he was probably the most manipulative person I've ever met in my life. Him and Brian, both. And they both knew how to talk to parents and how to convince parents and everything like that. I heard a story right after I left, a couple of days after I left. A kid was on. It was a 4-month visit weekend, and you're allowed to talk to your family on the phone and everything like that. any 4-month visit as long as your parents hold the phone. And this kid was talking to a really good friend of his that just left Agape that day. It was actually with DJ, my really good friend I hang out with all the time. And Brian walked in on the kid talking to DJ, and immediately Brian immediately put him in a brown shirt, told him that his visit was over and canceled, and the dad went off on Brian, and the dad requested that the kid be taken out, like he wanted to take his kid out, and this kid was my buddy when he first got there, and right before he got taken out, he got his head shaved again, right before. Like his dad's requested to take him out, and when they took him down to go get his stuff, they took him down and shaved his head right before he left. Like he's already out of the program, papers signed, everything, shaved his head just because they could.
Right, just to fuck with them, and that's the thing that like they want to project or whatever is that like and I think that's the most difficult thing for me when I got out was that they don't have control over me anymore. Like like because they have so much control over your life when you're there. That transition out into the freedom, it's like so hard to like think like they can't come get me, they can't put me in a brown shirt, like, but they have that control.
Your own decisions, because every decision is made for you every day of your life.
Right, and they pre-frame it for you too. When you leave here, if you don't do what we tell you to do, go to a good church, get into Bible college, you're going to fail. You're going to end up in jail. You're going to end up dead. You're going to end up overdosing on drugs. They tell you about your life and how you're going to be if you don't listen to what they say. And it's like it's almost like they want you to fail, dropping you off at a bus station with no money, nothing, knowing that you needed ID, knowing that you needed this stuff, just dropping you off there and leaving you. That way, if you end up, say you went back there, you're like, hey, Brian, man, we messed up. We want to come back to Agape. Then you come back to Agape, your success story, because now you're back at Agape, or whatever. Like like they did not set you up for success whatsoever.
No, they set you up to fail.
Yep, exactly. Something my mom always talked about. Oh, like the success rate for Agape is beyond the roof. It's wild. It's better than any other boarding school in the country. I was like, honestly, no. I know some kids. I know a kid named Jacob, a really good friend of mine in the program. And like he was 16. He ended up overdosing on drugs and everything like that when he got out. Just went back to like the same lifestyle, but there was no help from him while there. There was no one to talk to him about his personal problems that he could personally trust without it getting back to Brian or back to his parents. There was a couple staff members there when I left that I could completely trust. That I still talk to this day. Really good people. And they keep everything under wraps because they know what it's like. Like one staff member went to a boarding school and he was a kid, so he knows what it's like. So he's there to try and make it better for us. And like he sees everything. But like but because they know that, they keep him away from 99% of the stuff. So he only sees very little. Right. And so it's really hard for him to say anything about it because like he only hears stories and he'll talk to staff members about it, and all the staff members will team together. And they're like, no, this didn't happen. This is what happened that day instead, and stuff like that. And it like the success rate. I mean, yeah, you can be successful, but I want to say it's because of Agape. Like I think the only good thing there was like going to church. That honestly was probably the only thing. And they shut it down your throat a lot. But if you chose that pathway, and if you chose to allow it to take a hold of you, I guess you could say. Like I didn't pay attention to every church service. I don't still. I still go to church, but like that was the only good part of Agape, that hour that you were at church, where you could sit there and think about yourself and think about what you're gonna do when you get out and everything like that. And they tell you, oh, if you do this when you get out, you're gonna go down the wrong path. No, like, I mean, I've done some stupid stuff, but like I still live my life. I still go out and I have fun. But like, it was hard when I first got out because I didn't know how to control myself because I just want to do everything.
Right.
And so it's hard. It's hard going from having every second of every day planned out to like you wake up in the morning like, oh, I have 24 hours of free time. Nothing to do. Like, what do I do? Like, where do I go? And that's when a lot of kids find the wrong stuff because like that's just what they know so good, so they go back to that stuff. Yeah. So they don't teach you how to live a fun life without any of that. All they teach you is you have to go to church every time the church doors are open. You have to go there, and that would be a fun, good life. But mind you, you're a 16-year-old kid just got out of Agape. You're thinking about girls. You're thinking about sports, and they don't teach you anything like that. They just teach you, oh, if you don't read your Bible every day, or oh, if you don't go to church every weekend, like you're just gonna fail. Like there's no way you're gonna make it in life.
Do you have any other type of support system besides the church?
I have Austin. I have his mom. But like
Okay.
I don't talk to my dad. My dad was my biggest hero in my life. Don't talk to him no more. Talk to my mom every once in a while, but other than that, I gotta work through a lot of my own problems, and it's hard.
Yeah, Agape's still fresh, so I mean, you got to give it some
seriously.
time. You got to give it some time.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
That's great. So, and maybe you already covered this, and I missed it. But is it because of your relationship with your dad? Is that because of Agape, like that dissension that they put between the child and the parents? Is that why you guys are not, or if it's something else, you don't have to go into it. But I'm just wondering if that's what it was.
I believe that's what it was. My dad gave me an excuse of, I spent all this money on you to go there and to get better, and you're gonna throw all that money down the drain. What I told him, I was like, I thank you for the help. Like, thank you. Like, it may have been I needed a wake up call.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect you to pay that much money. I didn't expect you to keep me there as long as you did.
Right.
You told me a year, and I was at the right place to go home in a year. Like, obviously, I'm not gonna be the perfect kid when I get home. I'm a kid. I'm gonna do something stupid.
Right.
But for you to use that as an excuse not to take me home, that's not what you do. And he was like, I want actions, not words.
Yeah. Well, what's his? What was like? What I don't get what the image is. Like, what did you have to be? You know what I'm saying? For him to say you were a success, you came out of Agape and it worked. What is that picture perfect image that he wanted you to be? Or is it something Agape promised him that?
I don't even know. I think it's something that Agape promised him. Like, I'd be the perfect son when I got out.
Well, I'm sure it's probably what the website said.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, the marketing. Yeah, it says like we're straighten him out, teach him God, turn him into a man. But
Yep.
that's just interesting because the fact that you got out, like you seem to have a level head. Like just talking with you, man, like, you seem to have a level head about you. You know, like you're not like some emotional wreck. You know, smoking crack while we're trying to do this thing or whatever. You know, like you know what I mean. Like, but dude, yeah, it's a trip. It's crazy because I'm 37, right? So I got out of Agape in 2001. So I mean, it's been a long time, dude. But it's still like dealing with stuff. But it's not easy, dude. Like going back into the real world and like trying to make it for yourself, and especially without a support system too. Like
because while you're there, you don't have very little contact with your parents, so It's hard for you to get back in that relationship that you had with your parents, and it's hard for them to help you because you've been so distant for them for a year. Like,
right, and you can't go and be vulnerable to them. You can't go to them and say, you know, hey, mom, dad, I was abused while I was there. This is because they've had 2 years of hearing from Brian and the other staff members that you're just gonna lie and make this stuff up, and they're trained not to believe you. So when you get out and you try to tell them, hey, man, I went through all this, they're not listening to you. So now that puts that gap between you guys, and now like, dude, that's cool that you have. It's Austin, you said, and his mom that are like helping you out. That's cool that at least you have that, dude.
Yeah. It's hard because like I didn't have any of my like legal documents when I got out to get a job, but like I eventually got them. And so for the first 3 months, it was probably like the worst time because like, I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And I had no one around me to do anything with, so I was always cooped up, and I was just thinking about everything. And I was like, and like I was so brainwashed at the school, to where I was like, man, like it wasn't really that bad. But once you get out and like you really see what they did there, it's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
It's like that's just wild.
Yeah. And there's some kids that are still believe that. Like even kids that I went to school with, they still think, oh, it wasn't that bad. But those were the kids that were getting beat up and abused while I was there. And I'm like, how do you look back at this and not know that it was bad? But
it's because they make it look like, oh, it's gonna help you one day. Like one day you getting restrained for 3 hours is gonna help you. Like really, that's not gonna help you at all. If anything, that's gonna make you even more mad and make you want to rebel even more at the school.
Yeah. I feel
it has the opposite effect.
Exactly. You know? And like you said earlier, like you said a restraint is only supposed to be when a kid's supposed to hurt himself. While I was there, I think only one kid attempted suicide, and he got restrained for it. Like, okay, that's obvious. Like, that needs to be dealt with. But all the other times, for a kid throwing his hands up, for a kid giving you a little bit of attitude, you're gonna restrain him for an hour and a half. Right. There's no point to that.
Right, cause nerve damage, do all that stuff just for, and man.
And the medical thing too. I was on ADHD medicine when I got there. I was on that my whole life, and day one, no, you're not allowed to take it. No, you're not allowed to take it. So some kids who come in with some mental problems who have to have this medicine are off of it, and they don't know how to act, and they just go crazy, and then they get restrained and everything like that because they don't know how to act.
I think I think that's why they do it.
Mm-hmm.
They take you off of the medication so you can't act out.
Well, they don't believe in that. Well, they don't believe in the medicating either. Like they it's against like religiously too. But you're right too. They probably
they do it so they can find a reason to restrain you.
Right.
And it seems to me that they just absolutely enjoy it.
I think they do. Some staff members, I've heard them say, I enjoy restraining kids. Like, I enjoy restraining kids. And like I had to restrain some students while I was an intern and captain. And I'm gonna put a little bit of pressure on you, but you're gonna be able to feel it. I mean, you're not gonna have a bruise on your arm. Those kids that would come back upstairs days after with massive bruises, like the whole arm red and black and everything like that. And that's just wild. And I remember Scott, the head medical guy one time. There was a kid there who had like some form of autism, and he's like, I don't believe in autism. I think he's just acting stupid. Like he's trying to be like this. Like no, like there's millions of people around the world that have autism, and they just can't. And, like you're gonna take him off his medicine. Like he's not gonna know how to control himself because like he can't control himself. He doesn't have the right mindset to.
And they punish him for it. So it's like see exactly what you said, Jason. They take you off the medicine. And then when you have these episodes, when you act out whatever the medicine was helping with, and then you get punished for it because you're being loud, you're outspoken, you're too energetic or whatever, and then you're getting punished for it. But if they're on their medicine, like they'd be totally fine. But it's like, well, all you need is Jesus in their mind, and like Jesus, it's nothing against religion by any means, but it's like medicine plays a part, and I can't.
Right. God made medicine for a reason. Some people need medicine.
100%.
If it wasn't a use for it, there would be no medicine.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing too. If your parents, there's got to be something in the documents though that they sign. But if your parents are giving them medicine for you and saying you need to give this to my child, this is his medicine, and for them not to give it to you, like that, to me, there has to be something legal there. Unless they have it in their contract you sign where they can give you the medicine at their liberty, like there's got to be something legal there.
Maybe some fine print, maybe that they didn't.
So, for me, my mom, before she even walked out the door, before I even got my head shaved, they gave her my bottle of medicine. He's like, he won't be needing this. Mind you, I grew up. When I was born. My mom was a drug addict, so I was messing from that. So I went through the whole CPS, everything like that. Went through a whole bunch of shit with that. So I was very hyperactive my whole life. So I was on that medicine from the time I was probably like 4 till 15. So I didn't depend on it. I could go without it. Right. But you could tell I was off of it because like I couldn't control myself at that point. And my mom was like, no, he needs his medicine. Like, if anything, wean him off his medicine. And they're like, no, he's not going to get weaned off, nothing. Like, you just don't need it anymore. And just gave it back to her.
Wow. Like, you stepped into a wonderland, a magical place where you don't need medicine anymore once you're on the property there. But
and the kind of tensions that are there for a kid with ADHD.
My gosh.
Like, you're going to need that. Like, you're not going to be able to control yourself half the time.
Yeah. I know exactly. I don't know if they were on medicine or not, but I know so many kids when I was there that were like that, where they needed something, or the staff members were not properly trained to deal with kids that have behavioral issues like that, or like social issues like that. Like, I had ADD like growing up too, and like, but some of the other kids I got there, like, you tell them to keep their head on the wall. You're telling a kid that has ADHD to stand with their face an inch away from a wall, not look off it, not move. Come on, really? Like
it knows something too, but it hurts your eyes after a while. At this thing. And so
you try to focus a dot, or they go cross-eyed, or they whatever. I've been there, man. Yeah.
And then I would look off the wall for a second, and then like it'd be like Francis push-ups.
Yep.
Oh man, like I've been on here for 8 hours. There was times when Brian would stick a kid on the wall for months at a time, every meal for months. And I remember a story that they would tell all the time about this. He was a pastor there. And just because he smarted off during church service, he did not let the kid eat dinner for a month. So he couldn't eat dinner for a month. He had to be on the wall every time that he was in the cafeteria, no matter what time of the day it was. He had to be on the wall. And sometimes on his off days, he would come in there just to make the kids sit on the wall, just to make the kids sit on the wall.
See, that's another thing, Jason. I'm glad he said what he just said, because it brought something to mind. These punishments that these staff members put on these kids, they're emotionally driven. The student did something that upset the staff member. Not necessarily that the student did something wrong, but the student did something to upset the staff member. Staff member gets mad, staff member takes it out on the student however he seems fit. It's not this like cut and dry, black and white, you break the rule, this is a punishment. It all depends on how upset the staff member is, how mad he was, how his feelings were hurt by what he said, and then he takes it out on the student accordingly. And it's just like, that's not how you operate with children. You don't just take your aggression and emotions out on them.
I remember they would also do this emotional thing too, with the shaving the heads, because a lot of kids like their hair. I like my curly hair. Like it's something that defines me. It's something that people notice right off the bat, because it's something like when people look at you, they look at the way you walk, the way you, like the way you dress, and they look at your hair. If you're well groomed, okay, then they make assumptions about you. I remember there was this a couple times where they would be shaving these brown kids' head, and they would leave flaps of hair in the front for days, just to mock him, just as a joke, just to make him
make it look stupid.
Yep, just to make him look stupid.
Wow.
And they cut stupid patterns in his hair and leave it there, and then they would go to church, and the whole congregation, people from town would see it, and the kid would just be downright embarrassed. And it's not something that happens it happened and I'm embarrassed for a couple minutes. No, it's there all the time.
Yeah.
And you can't get rid of it.
Man.
It's
shitty hearing all this stuff, but it's good at the same time, because it's like other people are going to watch this. Some people that are wondering what goes on at Agape, they watch this, they hear all these things. Then also other kids see this. Well, kids, I can call you guys out because I'm 37, but other kids see this, right? And they're like, oh man, I want to tell my story too. And I'll tell you, it's tough talking about this stuff, because you're it's kind of fresh for you, rehashing all these emotions and stuff. But at the same time, this helps out so many people, dude, that you're able to come on here, say these things, because maybe they don't have the balls to come on here and talk in front of a bunch of people that are going to watch this, but they're hearing that oh wait, I went through that too, or I'm experiencing that too. Yeah.
I know. I put a story this morning on my Snapchat story. I was like, I'm talking to a guy about what I went through at Agape. If you're from Agape and you want to talk to him, please let me know. And some kids will hit me up man, I don't really want to talk about it, but you were there for this part and this part. Make sure you mention this. There's some stuff that they want to get across, but they just are too afraid to talk to him, or they're just too young to talk about.
Yeah.
And the parents are so in love with the school that they would not give them the permission to talk about it. And the thing that I can get my mind wrapped around is, if you give birth to a kid, how are you going to send him away for months on years on end and think it's okay? For me, I knew one thing, no matter how bad my kid is, I will not send him away. I just can't. Because
they do it under the disguise of Christianity.
Right.
That's why they figure it's a Christian place.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be bad.
Right. And that's something that my mom did, because they thought to send me to boarding school a couple of years earlier, but it wasn't a Christian-run program. And so we would talk about it, we would get through it. But then my mom brought up the fact right when they were telling me about it, they're like, it's gonna be a really good place. It's Christian-based. It's very Christian-based, very Christian-centered, and it has sports, so it's the best of both worlds. In my mind, I'm thinking in my head, oh, it's gonna be like Zoe 101, the TV shows, boarding school's gonna be amazing. I was happy. Right. I got there, I was like, what the fuck is this? This is not what they described to my parents at all.
Well, that's because it wasn't on the website. It doesn't say on the bottom of the page, we're going to beat the shit out of your son.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
We're going to be straining him.
These pictures from years and years old. They'd never update their website, nothing. And it's just I can see pictures from kids from 10 years ago on there, and they're doing way different stuff than we would be allowed to do.
They go smiles on their face. Looks like they're having a really good time. Yeah. It's all about the marketing, James, you were saying before. It's all about the marketing.
And also too, the kids that get out this, right now, if a potential parent that wants to send their kid there sees this podcast, listens to your account, just getting out in March this year, right, of everything that's happening. This isn't 10, 20 years ago, my situation. But then when they go to Agape and they talk about it, Agape's like, oh yeah, that's Lucas. You know what? We told him to stay. We told him he wasn't ready to go out in the world. He went out. He's fallen on his face. He's fallen away from the Lord. And they totally devalue everything about you and how you are as a person and your story. And the parents like, oh, okay, well that makes sense. He's one of the failures at Agape. I've left Agape, but it's
pretty much.
But I don't think I've heard I know people have been successful at Agape, but I don't think I've heard someone give the complete success that they've had in their life. Oh, I became extremely successful right after I got out of Agape. No, they had to work for that. They had to learn everything over again. They had to work for that. Agape, 100%. Exactly. Like Agape, like may have been good for them for a time, but like what happened there is not good. Like it obviously needs to be like controlled way more than it is. There's always good and bad things about a place, but if the bad outweighs the good, like there's no point in even having the place there anymore. Well, and the fact that they've had to move around so many times to different locations, that just shows you that they obviously are doing something wrong, and they're finally being able to cover the tracks somewhere.
And the thing is, once Missouri, the state of Missouri, gets a hold of whatever's going on, and they actually take action, what's going to happen is they're going to shut the place down, and they're just going to move to another state,
right?
Yeah, that has lax restrictions. That's they move back and forth. That's the problem. That's one of the main problems of these homes is they can move from state to state.
And the crazy thing is, I'm not even talking about. I haven't brought up my sister much, but she got sent to 2 places that were Christian-ran girls' homes, and one was shut down by the FBI, and one was shut down by the state because the same stuff was happening there.
Yeah.
But they figured out because it was more controlling, but it wasn't as controlling, and people finally were able to speak out about it, and they finally looked into everything and realized, oh wow, how has this been under our noses so long, and how has this been able to go on?
And it wouldn't surprise me if it popped up somewhere else.
Right.
I mean?
Yep. Exactly, and that's how those legislative people were. Like, I'm glad they're looking into it, but when they're hearing these stories and people are talking about it, they're kind of just like, in shock that this is happening.
Right.
And
it's one thing if one kid makes an accusation. If you have hundreds of kids from 20 years ago, you left before I was even born, and same stuff was happening back then. If it's been happening for that long, like that's just wild to me.
Yeah, that right there, what he just said is that is an amazing statement. I didn't even think about that. Like before he was even born, this stuff was happening at the school, and it's still happening all this time later, and like nothing's been done about it. And oh my gosh!
Well, maybe if more of these podcasts come out, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people start to realize. I mean, some parents can be naive sometimes. I mean, I take fault in that as well. But sooner or later, they're going to go, "What the hell's going on here?" You know what I mean? Now we have 2 kids. Okay, well, now there's 10. Now there's 20. Oh, what's going on here? You know what I mean? And pretty soon, Agape's way of the kid's just a failed whatever, it's not going to work anymore.
Right.
The parents are sooner or later going to wise up. You know what I mean? And say this is bullshit.
And another thing I think about a lot of times, like you get accusations against big name people, or like this guy raped me or something like that. But we're coming out and talking about it personally. Like I have no reward in doing this, so I'm coming out openly and sharing my story, and James is sharing his story, and there's no reward for us except for the fact that hopefully one day we'll be able to get this place either under wraps or it'll be taken care of completely.
And it takes courage, to come out and do this stuff, because when I first started the podcast, the girls didn't want to come on video. They wanted to just be on the phone. You know what I mean? So now Skype, okay, Skype, let's do it.
Right.
So now people are really starting to build up the courage to come out and show their faces, and that's good. That's good. So,
yeah.
Anyway,
during the time that we were talking, one of the staff members was calling me, and I guarantee you, if I call him back after, he's gonna be asking me, "Oh, I heard you was talking about this. Heard you were talking about this. How come you didn't tell me about all the good stuff we did?" Yeah, there was some good stuff that happened, but at the same time, you can't look past all the abuse that has happened and everything that's going on. But if you get 1 ounce of good and something and 9 ounces of bad, it doesn't make any sense. There's no point.
Just give them the 2 words: piss off. That's what I say. Piss off.
And this, to what you're saying with the good stuff that happened there is good stuff. Like before I got sent to Agape, the path that I was on was a really shitty path in my life, and like my best friend ended up on drugs, meth, and I would have been right there with him. So Agape, being sent away, I can't say Agape saved me, but being sent to somewhere different, a different location, a different school,
different environment.
Exactly, that did help. Did Agape help me? Maybe, but I want to say it did more harm than it did good. So yes, it did do some good in my life. It did teach me work ethic. When I went to go get a job.
Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yeah.
Right. When I went to go get a job and they're interviewing me, they're like, "Do you have any work history?" I'm like, "No, it's my first job, but I've done insulation, I've done sheetrock, I've done cement work, I've done this." and like I was able to say those things. So there is some good. You're right, but to overshadow all the bad, the abuse, nothing. I don't think any amount of good can overshadow child abuse. Like nothing can overshadow that. Oh, they found Jesus. They eat kids. Like that. There's nothing that can overshadow that. So if they're gonna try to reach out to you, dude, and they're gonna try to like tell you this or make you feel bad about this or whatever, I mean, if it's worth anything, stick to your guns. You don't even have to You don't even have to explain yourself to them anymore. You're gone from Agape. You're out from under their control. They have no control over you anymore. If they're trying to reach out, even if it's a friend or something like that, and they're trying to control you, dude, like, I'd just be weary, man, because it's so hard to not get wrapped back up into that. Like, I had staff calling me after I left too, and trying to ask me what church I was in and everything like that for years afterwards. And I'd always feel so guilty talking to them, you know, like, because I wasn't doing.
They put themselves on such a higher pedestal than you, and they make you feel like the scum of the earth all the time. And the piggyback off what James said, like how he was going down the wrong path. Yeah, I was going down the wrong path. I needed a different environment. And there was many kids that were there. While they were there, they would get letters from their family like, "Oh, like your best friend died in in drive-by shooting," something like that. And like, if you think about it, like, oh wow, I would have been right there with him because I'd never been the guy's side. So it's good. Like, yeah, okay, thank God, like I was able to get out of that environment. But at the same time, you can't be doing the stuff you're doing and thinking it's working and thinking that you're changing boys' lives when really you're doing a lot of more harm than you are doing good.
You have to kind of weigh it a little bit, you know. Does the good outweigh the bad? Well, maybe, but it still doesn't excuse the abuse that they did.
Exactly.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Right. They could totally operate and do everything, all the good that they're trying to do in the name of the Lord and everything else they're trying to do. They could totally do that. Still have an amazing effect on boys' lives without the abuse. Like they literally could. If Agape didn't have all this abuse that they did or they do, and they just did what they advertise they do, it would be an amazing place where guys get out and they go on, live successful, fine, good Christian, non-Christian lives. But that abuse that they have, the mental and the physical, that just takes it to a whole nother level.
Yeah,
for sure. Definitely.
All right, guys. It's great to have you on, James. As always, thank you.
For
Lucas,
sure.
Man, that was powerful, man. That was good.
Yeah.
That was good. I hope you get support you need. You know what I mean?
Appreciate that.
So, stay on the line, okay?
Is there something else that someone wants to say? Or
I don't know. This Valley just texted me and she sent me a video and she's like, Valley, the one from the Wings of Faith.
Yes.
And she's like, because I sent her your information today.
Yeah, and she's going to be on Thursday.
Yeah, and she sent me a text. She's like, "Can I talk to him now? Can I talk to him now? Can I talk to him now?"
Wow. Yeah.
The thing is, I have another person from Agape tomorrow, and then I have Valley on Thursday, and then I have someone on Saturday, and then somebody on Sunday. Yes, right. I was working today, and I just got all these calls coming in.
So awesome.
So I had like 15 different people text me from both Wings of Faith and Agape, like, "Yo, can you send me his number? Yo, can you send me his number?" Oh yeah, it's like as long as you guys are willing to talk about it.
Yeah, it's right on the channel page. I mean, if you go on the YouTube channel, it's right on the top. You know what I mean? So just tell them to go to the Hammer Podcast YouTube page, and it's right there.
For sure.
So anybody can find it.
For sure.
All right, guys, stay on the line, and I want to talk to you a little bit, and we're going to end the podcast. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope everybody learned something from this, especially the parents out there. You know, if you're thinking about sending your kids to a school like this, make sure you do your research. Please, we don't want anything like this happening anymore.
Right.
So for the Hammer Podcast, I'm Jason. You take care of yourselves, and you take care of each other.